that will help you, in your DevOps journey, really, because, I've been telling people that the most important thing to learn within DevOps, yes, it's good to learn the concepts, it's good to learn, all the tools, but your Linux needs to be, solid, right? And then it's also very, very essential that we understand the commands that we're running, and that we're not just copying commands, from the internet and then running it. Right? So this class and subsequent classes as well would be, very, very will be brief, and would actually go straight to the point. We won't talk about complex things, but basic hacks, that you need to understand as a Linux administrator. Just simple things that people overlook every now and then, right? And commands such as cats, people actually overlook it too. They don't even know what. Okay, they just know that yes, cats, helps you to visualize or read files. So there's some commands that we're going to be churning out as the weeks, roll by, so that at least you can be conversant with all of these commands. And it's going to be progressive, right? It's going to be progressive. And so just like I've said, right, every week we're going to be meeting and just sharing ideas, basic Linux commands, that you would always encounter, in your journey, to becoming a DevOps practitioner. Nobody becomes a DevOps practitioner by overnight. I'm still learning DevOps, right? I'm still learning DevOps, and it's going to be like a continuous process. You can't find a DevOps practitioner today that knows everything. No, right? So, all right, so let us jump into it. Linux is very important. And I just said this is just going to be for 30 minutes. So I'll just try as much as possible to just touch the basics, things that you will always use, every day. Even once you get that job, these are part of the things that are going to be using every now and then. All right, so Linux is wide, but we'll just try as much as possible to make it very, very interesting, right? So part of the things that I'm going to be working on as a Linux administrator is, peradventure, you want to run a process. Now, what are processes? Processes are just part of those things that make up the Linux system itself, right? Part of those functionalities that makes up Linux. So, peradventure, you want to maybe like run a service on the Linux environment. So just visualize Linux as, another Windows machine, right? But not a Windows machine, but just visualize it as another server, if I can put it that way, right? You can also have GUI. You can also have the GUI flavor of your Linux machine. It's where you drag and drop, right click, create a folder, create a file and all of that. So now as an administrator, before you run some processes, you always want to see who is logged into the system. On my PC right now, I can just right click, go to Task Manager. Then on Task Manager, just go to users. So this shows that I'm the only one logged in, and I can see my CPU, memory, disk, network, whatever. So on the Linux environment as well, if you want to see the users that are logged in, very simple. It's a very simple command. Just type W. So W is going to show you the user that is logged in, and the user that is logged in is Dapo, right? It's telling me from what address, the login time, IDO, JCPU, waste time, and all of that. That's a simple logic. So once you just type W will show you who is logged in to the server. Now, another command again is who, WHO. Now, what does this do? This displays information about users who are currently logged in. Now, this first one we only show you information about the users currently on the machine and their processes. Don't forget, and their processes. Why W will only show users who are currently logged in. So WHO, who, can see it's only showing who is logged in without the processes. Now, if you now want to see only the login names of people that are logged in, you just type users, and that will show the name of users that are or the list of users that have logged in. Okay, now this concept is very simple and straightforward, and it will help you on your day-to-day activities. Now let us go to the next one. Now, if you want to see an additional user, you can actually just create a user here, and that user that you create would show up here. So let us create a user. I think Nuruddin, some weeks ago, he showed you how to create a user, and he also told you that man is your friend. That is manual. That's the manual of the Linux machine. So once you just type man, and just type the name of the command that you want to, or that you actually want to check for the functionalities, that would give you. So man space the command that you are not sure of. For example, now if I want to add a user, I know that the command is user add. I can just put user add in front. So you can see user add would show you the description. It's telling me that this is user add, this is the description, and it's telling me that this is a low quality utility for adding users. That's all. So whatever you do in Linux, man is your friend. Just type man in front, and it's going to show you what it does. As well, we have some other options as well. I can go through. No, so let us quit. Sorry. Okay, so quit is just once you type Q. Hello. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, interrupting. Please, you said something about the W and WHO. What did you say the difference? You mentioned something about processes. I didn't get that point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I said, yeah, thanks. I said W would, so W would show information about the users currently logged on to the machine and their processes. That's what W will do. While WHO, which is who, will only display information about the users who are currently logged in. So those are just the basic differences. Okay. Do you understand the concept now?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine now. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So so the next one now is okay. So W would show you the users that are logged in. So if I want to see an additional user, I can just create a user, right? And what is the command? The command is what? User add. User add. Let's say tile. So now, what this command would do is, this command is going to create a user on the Linux machine, right? But there's something we call the home directory. Now, what that home directory will do is, the home directory would create a user alongside creating like a folder where the details of that user will live in. You understand the concepts? Now, user add space, the name of the user is going to create a user on the Linux machine, right? If I should just do this, it's going to create a user. Now, please, best practice, make sure that you are not running as root. Running as root is quite risky. You would always want to run as your user. So you just have to, sudo su space your user. That is going to prompt you to log in with your user. But again, because of course, I'm usually very careful when I'm using root so that I don't I don't always have to put sudo in front of all the commands I'm running. That was why I just logged in as root. So again, this is very, very essential. Running as root is risky. Please do not run as root on production. Okay, now I have created a user add Tayo. So what this means is that Tayo is now able to log on to this server, right? If I should create a password for Tayo now, Tayo is going to log in. But Tayo does not have a home directory. So meaning if I should go to the home directory, I want to change my directory and then type home. Once I click on enter, and then I want to list everything in the home directory, just click on ls. It's going to list Clint and Dapo. So these are the only two users on this system. Do you understand? Now, these are the two user directories on this system. So I created Tayo, right? But Tayo does not have a home directory, but Tayo is listed as a user. How do I check Tayo's details? I can just cat it, cat/etc/this file called password D. Once you press enter, you can see it's going to list Tayo over here. Again, Tayo is a user, but it doesn't have a home directory. Okay, now let us clear our screen and let us create another user, but with home directory. How do I do that? I just need to add. So again, man is our friend. Man user add. What does it say? So once you scroll down here, you can see what this is telling me. This is telling me that this command, user add space -m, will create the user's home directory if it does not exist. It's as simple as that. So let us now go ahead to create it. Now, what this means is on my PC over here, on my PC over here. So what that means is that if I should come to my C drive and go to users, right? If I should create a new user on this, my system, if I should create a new user, right? And I log in with that user, immediately what will happen is that, yes, that user is going to be created alongside the user's home directory under users here. So if I should create Tayo, Tayo is going to have his own folder here so that once Tayo logs in, he can have his own desktop, downloads, documents, pictures, whatever. So the same thing applies here too. So let's just create user add -m. What name can we use? Let's use the name of a player. I'm a Manchester United fan and I love Ronaldo. So I can just type Ronaldo. So now what this will do is that it's going to create Ronaldo as a user and then create a home directory for Ronaldo. So let us now go to the home and then list it. So you can see that this has now created a home directory for Ronaldo. Now, what else can Ronaldo do? Ronaldo can log on to this server. So we need to create a password for Ronaldo by typing this command, followed by the name of that user. It's going to ask for a new password. I can give it to Ronaldo as well, or just give it any password. It will ask you to type your password. And that is all. So now let us now log in as Ronaldo. So let me fetch the IP address of my server. Okay, I'm using a Linux server on Azure. So basically, once we get to cloud, would teach you, how to spin up different resources on Azure. So I'll just fetch the public IP of my server here. Of course, if you are watching this, I'm definitely going to destroy this server after this tutorial. I just created this for this tutorial. So I'm going to destroy this. Again, this is not best practice by logging in from the internet with the public IP address. So just like I've said, I'm going to destroy this server, and I'm going to show you the best practice when it comes to spinning up of VMs on the public cloud. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'll just copy this address, and then we're going to put it, paste, open. Can now log in as Ronaldo with the password given to Ronaldo. Yep. So so for the person that asked the question the other time, if I should type the wonderful command again, W, it will show that Ronaldo is logged in, and who would also tell me that Ronaldo is logged in on this terminal, right? So that's just that. So let us move on. Now, the next hack is, hope we all understand the concept now.
Yes.
All right. Yep. Okay. So now the next hack is, I want to talk about a very important tool that you might not escape, like a tool that you always, or a command that you always use, like make that command your friend. And that command is Systemctl. Now, what does that do? Now, the Systemctl.
Hello, Dapo.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I think there's a chat. I don't know if it's a late one. It's saying that you should go over the password again.
Okay, go over the password again.
Yes,
okay, so
the user password. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thanks. No, okay, so the password will just help you to create. Now, all of these things you are doing are just the basic elementary hacks on Linux. But on production, you will not want to log on with your username and password, right? You always want to log on with your username and what I call a key, right? An SSH key, which is best practice. So we're not going to do that because that one is beyond the scope of this class. But in our subsequent classes, we'll show you how to generate keys and then use that key to log in. That was what Nuruddin did when he gave you an assignment, because best practice is saying that don't log on with your username and password, right? It's not best practice. Even if you want to log on with your username and password, you should use a second factor authenticator, so that once you log on with your username, right, you type your password followed by the OTP, which is still secure. But best practice is saying that even after that, you should use an SSH generated key, which is still okay. So password, the password generation, just like I've said, is if you want to add a user add. I think Lawrence asked the question. Lawrence, right? Just type Lawrence this way. So this is going to add Lawrence, but if you also want to create a home directory for Lawrence, just like I showed you, just put -m in front, right? So this is going to create Lawrence. If you now want to give Lawrence a password, just type this command, then followed by Lawrence over here. Now, if you want to copy and paste on Putty, though I use Putty a lot. If you want to copy and paste, just double click whatever you want to copy. It has copied. If you now want to paste it, just right click. That is all. And this would just copy and paste. So now it's telling you that what is the password you want to give to Lawrence. All right, just type the password. You type a new password. If you type a wrong password, this will fail. So that's all, Lawrence. So this would create a password for Lawrence. Are we good? Okay. All right, thanks. I believe we are good. Now, the next one is Systemctl. Now, Systemctl is something that you won't escape as a DevOps practitioner or as a Linux administrator. And what does it do? It simply helps you to manage the services running on your Linux server. So they also help you to start, stop, restart, and also to check the status of running services on your server. Do you understand? So that is just what Systemctl does, and it's a command that you would always use every now and then. Now, I've run, I think I installed, so let me just clear my screen. So I installed what I call a web server. When we're doing our Windows class, we installed IIS. So an IIS is a web server that serves, from the name server, it serves something to the customers, or it serves something to the public world. So an IIS server serves web applications to the public world, meaning if someone should just go on your browser and type www.google.com, right? There's a web server that sits with Google, or that sits within Google's data center that serves that Google page itself, right? So that is a web server, just serving web pages. The same thing too on Linux. We have different web servers, but the most common one that people always want to use is called Apache, right? So if I now want to check the status of that with my web server, remember I told you about Systemctl. It will help you to check the status of my Apache. Now, how do we do that? Just type Systemctl. What do I want to check? I want to check the status of Apache. Now, Apache on Debian on Ubuntu, right? They are always called Apache 2. That's the name of the package. So just put 2 in front. And what do we have here? Now, this is now giving me the status of Apache itself. Now, what does this mean? It's telling me that this has been loaded, right? This is what the Apache HTTP server, right? It's telling me that it has been loaded to this directory and is enabled. Now, this enabled, what does it mean? Now, the enabled would tell you that this service is enabled, right? So that once you restart your server, this service is going to come up automatically. That is what this enables. That is what this enabled means. Meaning, if I should restart this server, Apache is going to start up by itself. So I don't need to come and start Apache. If I should disable this Apache 2, doesn't really mean that this service has been disabled. It just means that whenever this system is booting up, Apache is not going to start. So I can go ahead to disable. This service. Doesn't really mean that the service would fail. Do you understand? Let's try that and see. So again, Systemctl, disable Apache 2. Okay, let us check the status. Okay, so you can see that the service is still running, because some will say that, you have disabled Apache, now why is it still running? So this is now telling you that if I should restart this server, which I'm not going to do now, if I should restart this server, Apache will not start up automatically, right? So let us go back to enable it. So if you want to go back to the previous command that you've run, just strike your up arrow. It's going to bring the previous command. So let us enable Apache back. All right. Now, because I'm running as root, it will just go ahead. But I'm repeating this again. Don't run as root on production. Always run as your user. I'm sure the administrator would have placed your user within a file that will call sudoa, within a group called sudoa group. Again, it's in our subsequent classes would show you how to do that. So once you place a new user, just like Lawrence that I created, now Lawrence will not be able to do some admin functions on this server because Lawrence is not part of the privileged group. I have to add Lawrence to a group before he can perform the some certain privileges. So once Lawrence is now part of that, if Lawrence now wants to do some other things, right, Lawrence can now go ahead. And in some cases, you still have to put sudo in front of Lawrence for him to perform that thing. Okay. Now, having gotten that, so what else do we want to talk about? Okay, so I've talked about enabling of services, talk about disabling. Then now, if you now want to check, because you can have so many services or so many, you can have so many services running on your system. If you now want to check if a particular service is enabled, right? What you just need to do, like for example, this Apache, peradventure you don't have time, just quickly want to check if it's enabled. You can just type system. Sorry, let me just clear my screen. Systemctl. I want to check if it's enabled. It's just an English word. Is enabled. Then Apache 2. Meaning Systemctl. Please help me check if Apache is enabled. That's all. Right. So once you click on enter, you can see it is telling me that Mr. Lawrence, Apache 2 is enabled. Thank you. That's all. Right. So that command will help you to check if it's enabled. Now we now have some other. Now again, before I go ahead, yes.
No, yeah, we have another question here. It says, what is the purpose of Apache, and why will we want to enable it? I think maybe you should first of all explain the concept of the reason why we have services running in the Linux servers, and so that it does not just tie it only down to Apache, because the question here is what's the purpose of Apache and why would you want to enable it?
Okay, good. So thank you for that wonderful question. Now, Apache, just like I've said, is a web server. I'm sure maybe you joined late or you're just joining. As I said, Apache, I'm just using Apache. There are so many services that are running on the Linux machine, which I'm going to show you right now. Now, Apache is a web server that serves web pages, using HTTP or HTTPS protocol. So again, just like I've said, if we should go to Google, let me see, if you go to Google, right? Now, what is happening is that there is how do I put it now? There's a machine back end that is presenting this presenting this page to you. So now what I'm saying is that once you type www.google.com, right, you're actually calling a machine somewhere, and that machine is called a web server. On that web server, there is an application that has been installed on that web server that is now presenting this Google for you. So now you are calling this Google just like if I am calling a name, or let me say I am calling Lawrence. Hello, Lawrence, please give me food. Right. Now, Lawrence will now have to open the door and then present or serve that food to you. Now, that food itself is this page that you are seeing. Right. And then the person that is now giving you, then the person that is now giving you that food, right, has the functionality to give you that food, which is called the web server. So it's now presenting that web page to you. So Apache is a web server that presents web pages to you. Okay, so you're saying, so Apache is like IIS. Yes, absolutely. So Apache is like IIS for Windows. So you will want to enable it, just like I've said, you want to enable it so that once your server restarts, or once it goes down, maybe like due to, I don't know, once it goes down, once it's coming back up, right, Apache should be able to start up automatically so that you don't need to log in as the administrator to now go and start restarting Apache. That is why we always enable it. So back to your question, there's a command that will list all of the running processes. So Apache is just like an example. And that command is still, what is the command again? Okay, Systemctl. I want to list all the units. Now again, units, I'm just trying to make it very, very simple. Now, in the Linux world, right, we use terminology called service, right, to illustrate something that runs in the background, and not only runs in the background and continues to run, and it can also be referred to as a daemon. Now, daemon is spelled D-A-E-M-O-N. So once you hear daemon, once you hear service, once you hear units, they are the same thing. Very important. Again, I'll repeat myself. Once you hear daemon, daemon again is spelled as D-A-E-M-O-N. Once you hear daemon, once you hear service, once you hear units, they are all the same thing. So now, based on the question you asked, I want to list all the services, or I want to list all the units that are running on the background processes. So I will say Systemctl, please list all the services or all the units, right? And then the type is, or let me just run this for you to see. You can see this is giving me so many things that I don't need, meaning there are so many units that are running as background. But I want to filter. Let me clear my screen. So Systemctl, Mr. Systemctl, please list all the units, list all the services with what? Type service. Once you press enter, can you see what is happening? So it is listing, so based on your question, it will list all of the services that are running. You can see active, running, exited, failed, and what have you. So this is going to list the services that are running. You can see that Apache that I told you about. If I should install nginx, nginx is a load balancer, which I'm going to talk about in our subsequent classes. If I should install that, it's going to list it over here as well. Okay, does that answer your question? I believe it has answered your question. So Systemctl, again, is your friend. Systemctl. Yep.
I have a suggestion. Maybe at the end of this class, if we can actually, print out all the history of the commands that you run, and we can share it with them.
Oh yeah, sure, cool. I'll do that.
All right, thank you.
I'll do that. Thanks. Okay, so another command that you will not run away is, as a DevOps practitioner, you will always work with logs, right? Because once issues arise, you always want to kind of like check, okay, well, where are the issues coming from? I'm confused. I'm seeing this error and all of that. How are you going to, check some of those issues? Now you use logs, right? You use logs to troubleshoot, check different things that have actually happened. And then one command that you always use, that is always your friend, is what I call, just like we have Systemctl, you can always use journalctl command, right? So journalctl would help you to view log files, especially during troubleshooting. I'm just trying to keep this very, very simple and straightforward for you, so that once you are practicing, you can always check what is happening. So now Apache, right? If I have, just the same way I have Google running, right? If I should type Google, right? Once I type that, the web server that Google is running on will log whatever that is happening. It will log that, okay, Lawrence requested for Google, it will log it. Lawrence requested to check live scores, it will log it. So all of those auditing, all of those things that Lawrence is doing, it logs it in a particular file. And as a DevOps practitioner, you always want to check the different information that has been written to different files. So you need to make that as your friend. And Nuruddin, during our last class, he taught you how to be able to manipulate files, how to be able to check files and all. So journal.ctl is a friend, and it's going to help you to check the status of log files. So let us jump right into it. Okay, someone is asking that, can you SSH into a Linux VM using a private IP address? Yes, of course. Okay, Nuruddin has answered that already. Okay, so now journal.ctl spelled journal.ctl, right? That is us all, journal.ctl. Now, this is going to print out gibberish. You're going to print out so many things that you don't really need, right? Now, these are different logs, kernel logs. Now, kernel is what the Linux server communicates with. It's just like an intermediary between the applications that are running and the system files itself. Do you understand? So kernel is just like the middleman that helps you that helps the Linux machine to be able to interpret whatever it is they are doing. More like a low assembly language. So we're not going into that today, but then just know that journal.ctl will kind of like tell you, the different logs that this server is spitting out. Now, all of this might not actually make sense to you, but again, these are troubleshooting logs. So I'll just exit out. Let us now do a journal.ctl for something that makes sense to us. And we can just do journal.ctl. Now, what do I want to journal.ctl? Remember, I told you about, yeah.
Okay, please, with this journal.ctl, I just have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, like for instance, maybe event log, can I be able to use this journal.ctl to check my event log, or maybe for troubleshooting kind of thing?
Yeah, sure. So that's where we are going to now. That's where we are going to. So remember, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, that's where we are going to now. So we want to use journal.ctl, for example, now to check the status of Apache. Remember that I told you that Apache is a unit. So journal.ctl, I want to check the log files for Apache. The command is just journal.ctl. Then you specify that I want to check a unit called what? Apache 2. That's all about journal.ctl. Once you strike enter, you can see it will tell you, it would only tell me that, Apache, this starting Apache style. So it does give you the log file about Apache. Once I start serving web pages, right, you will see so many log files here. So many log files. Another service is just like we showed the other time, journal.ctl -u SSH. You can see all of the different auditing for SSH. Now, there's something that you would always want to use when doing troubleshooting. For example, you want to see your commands, or you want to be able to see the different audits as they come in, like real time. So now, in the Linux world, we call that following the logs, meaning I want to follow that log to see where the issue is coming from. Now, because I want to follow the SSH log, how do I now generate log for us to follow? Right, so what I can do is this, right? We'll just type journal.ctl SSH, then -f will follow the log. So now, how do we now follow the log? remember that we created a user called Ronaldo, right? So we'll now log in as Ronaldo and want to follow it since it's an SSH log, right? This should be able to tell me that Mr. Ronaldo has logged in. That is how you follow a log. You want to be able to see, what is happening in real time. Because believe me, once you are troubleshooting, right, you want to see, the different things that are happening in real time. That is why you must have to use your -F to follow it. So now let us log in as Ronaldo again. Let me get my public IP address on my Linux machine. Where's my box?
Hello, sorry. When you said real time, I was like thinking maybe you're trying to say something like maybe a running system outside just a user that logged in at a particular time. Maybe something that is happening real time. Maybe your server that is running, and you want to follow logs of what's going on in the server.
Absolutely, yes. That is what that means. So you want to follow the logs as they're happening. So let us follow the SSH logs now, just for us to practice it. Now, this SSH log should be able to tell me who is logging in, who is logging out. That is what we are seeing here. So for me to be able to see that, I just need to kind of like generate a log. And how do I generate a log? I will log in as a user. So I want to log in as Ronaldo. Then log in as my name and the password. So you can see that because I am following SSH, you can see that this has actually reported out. It's telling me that session has opened for user Ronaldo by UUID is equals to 0. You can see. So now, if you're not troubleshooting, right, and you actually want to follow logs, this is how you do it. It is no more than this. So once I exit out, I think it should be able to also show me. Okay, it won't log that. So, okay, it has actually logged that as well. Accepted password for Ronaldo, this, right? PAM means privileged access management. It's telling me that session opened. So that's how you follow log. Okay. So what else can we do with journalctl? Okay, so let us go back to that journalctl and so again, this is going to show you the different auditing under the SSH itself. So peradventure, and I want to search for something. Maybe I want to search for Azure, right? No, we didn't touch you on how to be able to do that, because part of what I'm going to be doing again is once you have done your journalctl, you always want to search for something. And then remember that last class, we didn't taught us that we should always use the what? A forward slash, right? Then type the name of whatever you want to do. Let's say I want to search for Azure. It's going to list out all the occurrences of Azure. So let me just remind you concerning that. So let me clear my screen again. Now, one last thing that you can also do with journalctl, peradventure, you want to check for the different logs, under SSH, but you don't want to start from the beginning, right? So let's say you want to do it since 9 p.m. tonight, right? So just have to do journalctl. Again, -u is I want to list the units, SSH. Now, and I want to check the log files for SSH, since, again, Linux is just English, really. So journalctl, please list all the logs of these units. That is why we have this -u. What is the name of the unit? SSH. Since what time? 2022 09 02. So it's always year, month, day, right? Then space, the time. What time? Let's just say from 9 o'clock. So again, it's hour, minutes, and what seconds, and then close it. That's all. So once you type this, it's going to give you all of the logs since that's 9 o'clock. That is since that 9 o'clock that you started till now, because you don't want to just do your journal CTL. It's going to spit out so many things, maybe like from last week. But if you now want to limit it to, I want to be able to get the logs since when that issue started around 8 a.m. Just put your sense and you'll be good. Okay, all right. So again, we're just keeping it simple. Now, these are some of the things that you always make reference to daily. Very, very important. Now, another important concept is the concept of analyzing, what is it called now? Analyzing CPU memory and what we call swap. So memory and swap, they are the same thing. Swap is just your reserved memory. Your reserved memory. In case the memory on a particular server has been exhausted, swap will now come into place. But swap is not really friendly with things like Docker and Kubernetes. That is why they will always tell you that, okay, I don't want any extra memory, just disable it, else your Kubernetes or your Docker will not run optimally. So now let us analyze CPU and CPU memory, services running and all, because as a DevOps practitioner, you want to see how your services are doing so that you will now advise the developer that, okay, this your service that I just deployed is consuming a lot of services or consuming a lot of resources. So, and this is very, very important because in fact, this is always opened on my PC where I check, CPU, RAM utilization and all of that. So again, it's a very simple command, and that command should stay with you for life. That command is just htop. So htop, that is all. That is all the command you need. Very, very simple command, but very important. Now, let us quickly go through it. Now, this is going to give you so many information that, again, remember that we're talking about hacks. Now, hacks to me are just part of those things that you can never do without, right? That you can never do without. And htop is one of them. No matter how advanced you are as a Linux guru, you will never run away from this htop. So now let us go through it one after the other. What does it do? Now, this is just telling you this 1, 2 that you are seeing here. You can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. It's just telling the number of CPU cores that you have on this system. Again, CPU will just help to make sure that your server is running optimally. So CPU is just like the engine that you have within your Lamborghini. So, the stronger the engine, the more efficient, right, that's, or the more faster that guy is going to run. So CPU, you can have as many cores as you want. So this is just telling you that I have only 2 cores, right? And it will help with things around threading. We'll not talk about threading here because it's actually beyond the scope of this. It will help you with things around threading, parallel processing, and what have you. So, but this is going to tell you that I have only 2 cores within my server. For example, they can just send you details. Mr. Devops, please help us. How many cores do we have on this server? Just type your htop and it will give you the 2 cores. That's all. Now, what does all of this coding means, right? Now, the green here, but now this same lines that are seen for memory, right? You can also see that for each CPU. Now, the green here is telling you the amount of CPU consumed by the user's processes. Again, processes are just your services. It will tell you, the amount of CPU consumed by user processes. Red the amount of CPU used by system processes. Very important. Green is user, red is system. So user processes such as maybe customize services that have been deployed on this server, right? Users processes, that is all of those processes that were started by that user. It will show you in green. While red is the amount of CPU by the system processes, right? Then gray, I don't think we have gray here. Gray is going to tell you the amount of input-output based processes, right? That one is not really important. Now, that is what you have here. Now, memory is just, it would tell you the main memory. While swap will tell you the swap memory. So green, again, will tell you the percentage of RAM used by running processes. Blue, as you can see here, will tell you, what is blue again? Will tell you the RAM consumed by buffer pages. I think buffer pages. Again, I don't want to go deep into it, but just know that all of these are kind of like the different processes that are running. Why swap? Nothing is consuming swap at the moment. Okay, then we now have the tags, statistics. Now, all of these are the different services that are running. You can see the users that actually started it. So you can see that. So that means that the one I talked about, CPU, peradventure, if DACO here is consuming high CPU, it's going to show as what? Green over here. That is when you will now know that, no, there's something wrong with part of the processes that are being run. So now these are the different tags, but where I want to dwell on, like for the next 2 minutes, is, someone has a question. Okay. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So good. Someone is asking, what about yellow? Is there yellow here?
I think I can see green, blue, yellow, or is it not yellow I'm seeing here? And red.
Green, blue, yellow. Is it my eyes?
The one that
yellow.
I mean the main.
Oh, okay. Under memory, right?
Yes.
Is that yellow or white?
I think this looks low. Okay, it's actually yellow. Okay,
It's yellow.
It's yellow.
Yeah, it's yellow.
Yeah, so yellow, if I'm not mistaken, is the percentage of RAM being used by, I think, catch. I'm not sure. Either catch. I know that green is for running processes, blue is for buffer, while yellow should be for cache memory. So just like I've said, we don't want to kind of like go deep into it, but just know that you can just Google online to check for memory color codes, right, on HTOP. But I think it should be for cache memory. Yeah, then someone again is asking, please, can you explain swap? I've already explained swap. I say swap is actually a space on disks, right? That is used when your physical memory is full. Does it make sense? I know to you it might not make sense. That is why I just kept it simple as swap is just a memory that shows up. It's just like your backup memory when the RAM memory on this server is full. Peradventure, you provisioned 5 gig to this server, 5 gig of RAM to this server. It should not give the entire server 5 gig, right? It cannot give this server maybe like 4.7. The remaining .3 is going to swap. So it's telling you that, Oga, you cannot give this server the whole 5 gig. I will keep that remaining one so that once your 4 point whatever gig is full, that is where the swap will now come into play. So it's not like your reserve box for memory. But that swap is a space on disks. Do you understand? That is always used when your memory is full.
Can we say that is like when you put fuel inside the car? That's like your reserve.
Reserve. Your head is no. Fantastic. You deserve. What can I even give you now? You deserve something. So that is just a simple explanation of swap. So once you get swap, that is what it does. So does that answer your question? So I hope you are getting the concept. Again, I'm just trying to keep it very simple so that everybody will understand. So what was I talking about? Yeah. So I was talking about now this other one here is very important and is what I call load average. This your load average here can crash, can kind of like if you don't get the explanation of this load average, right? And once things are crashing, you just be like, you just keep restarting. You're just restarting production server. At the end of 2 minutes, you're still having the same issue. Just type your stop, come to this load average and see. Now, very important, the maximum amount of, now, what is even load average, right? So load average will tell you the load, just as if you have a car, you have a lorry. You know, if you are putting too much load on that car, right, that car will not move again. You just be pressing your accelerator. The car will be doing voo, it will move. And that's because of the amount of load that you are putting on that server. So as a DevOps practitioner, load average is your guy. It will tell you that what is even the load running on this server. Now, this is a very, very good load average. Very important, the maximum amount of load is 4.0. If you are seeing load average of 3 here, you are seeing maybe 2 point something, it's bad. In fact, if you have a load average of 1.5, I believe it's bad as well. Because if something is 4 and you're having 1, then something is wrong with that your server. So load average is very important, and then uptime. Now, someone will now ask, what is now the difference between these 3 values that we have here? They are still the same load average, but just as the name implies, average. It's telling you that this first one is the average load for the last 1 minute. For the last minute or the last 1 minute. While the second one is the average load for the last 5 minutes. And then the last one is the average load for the last 15 minutes. Do you understand? So telling you that last 15 minutes have been good, last 5 minutes have been good, last minute, you can see that is why this guy is always changing, because it is the average load for the last minute. It's always changing. So if you now have a load average of 3.5, man, your server is about to die. It's about to crash. That is why you now see that my server is slow, my server is up, but I cannot SSH into it. It means that something is preventing, that is load average is not allowing you to even SSH, right? If you tell you that I'm on the server, I can't see anything, RAM is okay, right? CPU is okay, but I can't do anything. Just come and check your load average. This has helped so many companies, to avoid downtime. Very, very important. That's why I said, let me just stress on it.
Please, what brings about this high load average? Is it like user sessions or what?
Yeah, so now, just like I've said, right, the different applications that your developer churns out, right, can be consuming a lot of CPU. That is why we talked about Agile, where everybody are in the same room. The developer is in the room, the DevOps guy is in the room, the tester is in the room, the security guy is in the room. Like, you guys are all in the same room and you are discussing on how to be able to optimize your application. For example, if you want to release a mobile app right now, the developer doesn't just go and say that, okay, I want to release this, based on this, use this color and all of that. At the end of the day, once he releases that application, by the time you, as a DevOps practitioner, because it's your responsibility to deploy the application, by the time you deploy on your Linux machine, right, you just see that your load average, that application, you see it running as number 1 here, consuming a lot of CPU. You now see that your load average is now maybe 3.5. If you now drill down, you now see that it's that application that developer did. So Now, these are part of the things that you now have to send to the developer, that you now have to set to the tester. That Mr. Tester, by the time you are testing this developer's application, make sure that whatever tool you are running, of course, the tester can be using tools like Selenium, to do automated testing. Make sure that when you are running this your Selenium tool, my load average must be between 0.01 and 0.03. Anything outside that, I'm not going to deploy my application on this server. So those are part of the things that as a DevOps practitioner, you need to be on the same page with your tester. If you're telling your tester that this is what I want to do, whenever. So now at the end of the day, once you now release the application, again, we don't say once you maybe like, what is the word now? Once you install, no, you are not installing. Within the DevOps word, we call it releasing. Releasing is you have now, deployed that application on the server. So your load average should, at the end of the day, once it's now running, the first thing now go and check the load average, make sure that everything is going on. Okay, thanks, Sheol. Buffer page, exactly. So I talked about memory cache. So orange or yellow is for cache. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so now the last thing we'll talk about today, we'll be rounding up in the next 5 minutes, is updates, right? Updates. I'm sure that some of our guys here that are Linux experts, they will just, okay, I want to quickly update this server. They will just type yum updates, or apt-get updates, whatever. So now, APT, which is apt, right, is just a database that stores the list of software packages from your repository. So that's a difficult definition, right? So now, on the Linux environment, right, we have what we call packages. Now, packages are just like, how do I put it now? It's just like saying you are going online and you are downloading softwares. Just see it as softwares. So within the Linux environment, they call them packages. Now, all of those packages, they are always listed on your server as a database. Always listed on your server as database. Now, apt packages, they index all of those packages within your database, so that when you now want to install, let's say you want to install nginx, right? It will first check that database on your server to see if nginx is part of the package that Ubuntu supports. So again, we talked about the different distros. Distros are just distributions. We have Debian and Ubuntu. They are virtually the same thing. We have Debian, we have Ubuntu, we have Red Hat. So for Red Hat, right, they use their own packaging model. They use what we call YUM, YUM, right? But for Ubuntu, they use apt. So APT just stands for Advanced Packaging Tool. So it performs things like checking your software package installation, upgrading, checking the different packages that you have and all. So, so let's see. So the command is just apt-get. So apt-get updates. So what is this guy doing? He's just telling you, he's just listing, let me use apt updates instead. See. Good. Now, apt updates and apt-get are the same thing, but apt would give you more information as regards the different packages that you have. Again, I told you that so the apt package index is just a database that stores the list of software packages from your repository. So on the Linux machine itself, by default, you have your repository. And within that repository, right, it's just like a database. Within that database, we have all the different packages stored. So now, apt updates is not updating anything. It's not updating the server. Not updating anything. It's just telling you that I only want to kind of like list the packages that are on this server. So you can see what it's now telling you. It's telling me that 8 packages can be upgraded. That is why sometimes once you tell some guys, help us update the server, you just go and type apt updates. No, it won't update your server. It only lists the servers that can be upgraded. And that is what you can see here. It's telling me that 8 packages, just like saying 8 softwares can be upgraded. It's not telling me to run what? Apt list upgradable to see them. So I don't have to check this. So you can see it's telling me Python can be upgradable from what? 2 point whatever to this version. Python 3 can be updated. My MOTD. So MOTD is message of the day. It's just that message when you log on to a server for the very first time. It will tell you that welcome to whatever server. Kindly know that whatever you are doing here is noted, audit, whatever. That message itself is MOTD. Now that package that is in charge of that message is telling me that it is upgradable, to this particular version, which you can see here. Very important. Now, once you run your apt-get, right? Now, your database, which is where all of these packages live, they live within a particular file called sources.list. Very simple concept. So again, how do I get there? Right now, once you hear things around packages, once you hear things around softwares, things around processes, the first thing that should come to your mind is etc. So let us now navigate to etc. How do you navigate? Just cd into etc. Then, since you want to check apt, because that was what we ran here. So I'm saying that I'm inside etc. And then check apt, right? Then let us list. You can see all the guys that are here, right? So your sources.list is the DB, or is like the pointer that you are saying that at the end of the day, if I now want to upgrade all of these packages, where should I go to? That is what is inside this sources.list. So let us cut it. Cut is just, I want to display this sources.list. So once you cut it, you can see it's telling me that, okay, I am your only source of truth. Whenever I want to upgrade, I'll talk about upgrading now. Now, once I now want to upgrade all of those packages, like all of those packages here, if I want to upgrade them, where do I need to go to? Do I just go to the internet, right? Your apps will now come to this sources.list to say, Mr. Sources.list, so please, where can I go to download all of these packages? We'll now say, okay, anything that you want to download are inside sources.list. It's telling me that I can visit this website. You can see this DB means Debian, meaning this is a Debian distro. Debian and Ubuntu are like virtually the same thing. Telling me that this is the Debian and this is the URL to get whatever you want. You can see. So sometimes you might run your apt-get and it will tell you that, Oga, I don't know where to get this thing. Simple, just come to your sources.list and update this guy here. Update it with the valid Debian URL, right? And then you are good to go. So if I now want to upgrade it, I'll just do apt upgrade. That's all. But please don't do this on production. You should only do this when you have verified the different sources. Else, this guy will just go and download whatever you need to download. So again, apt-get upgrade or apt upgrade would install the newer versions of the package you have, the newer versions, right? And that is after you have updated the list, so that the package manager, which is that APT, it knows about the available updates of the software you have installed. So you would always want to run your apt updates. Very, very important. Okay. So, sorry, it's on my mouse. Okay, I think that brings me to the end. Okay, so before that, so for our next class, which is going to be next week, let me just introduce you to the concept of web server and load balancer, NGINX. So you will hear things around proxy. Yep.
Yeah, before you go ahead, sorry. The last command you used, catspot, for that where you brought out the source list.
Okay, cats, etc, apt, sources, just use your tab to complete it. Sources.list.
Okay.
This is like just like the where you need to kind of like get the packages itself. The third-party repositories that where you need to go and download the third-party tools. Okay. So
that's question number one.
Okay, question number two.
Yeah, question number two. Now, I was trying to, when the assignment, when we were done with the assignment, the Linux, the one they gave us. So I wanted to, practice. So I had to, I know we've changed the password. So I was trying to use my mobile stamp to, log in, put the key and everything. But I noticed it was not working for me. So I've been wanting to ask the question: is this something I'm missing?
Okay, but you couldn't log in.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Nuruddin, I'm sure that Nuruddin would have maybe decommissioned.
I mentioned on that day that I was going to shut down the server.
Oh, I wasn't listening. Okay.
Yeah, I mentioned that I was going to shut down the server after the last
presentation. Okay.
Maybe that's why you cannot have access to it. Yeah.
Okay. Fine. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. So one last one within the next 2 minutes is the concept of proxy. Where you can't even run away from this.
Round up quickly.
Yes. I will round up now. So one last one is just the concept of proxy, and that will be done in the next 1 minute. So let me just show you. So I'm sure you have been hearing about proxy, right? So what is a proxy? You have also been hearing things around forward proxy flow, reverse proxy. So now our next class, we'll start talking about proxy, but just to give you like an intro so that you can would always read ahead of our next hands-on, right? So forward proxy, right? Within your organization, you have so many systems, you have so many laptops, right? All of those laptops, once they want to go to the internet, they all forward their request to a guy here, the middle guy. The guy's name is Mr. Forward Proxy. He will collect all your requests and then forwards it to the internet. And this is so because these guys on the internet, they will not be able to see this user A, user B, all of these users, because proxy is kind of like acting like the middleman. It would forward it to the internet, and then that the servers that will now serve, whatever request that you want to get. So that is just forward proxy. Forwards all of this to the internet. Very, very easy. Second one is the reverse proxy. You can go to the interview and then they will ask you that what is the difference between forward and reverse? And then you'll be confused that this simple question. So again, this is the concept. Reverse proxy. What does this mean? Now, you are forwarding your request. Now, here, you don't have any proxy. All of these users are communicating directly with the internet. Now, once they now get, again, remember I told you that once you want to request for a particular page, right? A web server somewhere serves that request. Now, this server can be the server that serves Google. But because you now want to load balance, meaning because you have millions of requests coming in, you don't want to forward all of those millions of requests to just the server, else this server will just crash. You can now have several servers. Just the same way you go to the wedding, you have different servers that are serving food, right? Of course, you cannot bombard only one server. You can now load balance. So load balancing is saying that you now want to share all of those requests across the different servers so that they can serve you whatever you want to, whatever you need. Now, all of these requests, they land on this proxy. Is this proxy that now collects the information and then distributes it to the server. Now, in this case, this is a reverse proxy. All right. So please read on forward and reverse proxies, because our next class will talk about hands-on on how to be able to deploy NGINX. All right. And that brings me to the end of the class. If you have any question, please kindly ask so that we can call it a day over here.
Hello, Dapo. Hello?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes,
I would like you to answer a question. I think, hold on just a minute. I think the person that asked about connecting to a Linux server through a private IP, I think he does not get it very well. Maybe you could help also, explain it. He's trying to connect to a, what's it called, to an instance, and the instance does not have a public IP address assigned to it. So he's asking that what's the best way to connect to that instance, also from a private, from a private network. So I would also like you to assist with that also.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. I love working with sketches. Just a minute. Okay, let me just share my screen so that I can. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Good. Now, this is your server over here. And this, let me just put a demarcation over here. This is your server. This is your internal network, right? And this is the internet. Oh, yeah, internet. Now, this server here, of course, is a Linux machine, right? Now, kindly note that port 22 is just a number that helps you to SSH or that helps you to connect into the server. You can actually change that port to something else. You can change it to port 8822 or 41, whatever. Just make sure that the port that you want to change it to does not conflict with another port on that server. Best practice is saying that don't practice. Best practice number one is you're on the internet. Right? This is your server. Now, this server, if this server does not have any business with the internet, please don't assign a public IP to this server. Don't assign a public IP to this server if this server does not have any business with the internet. The only thing that you can just assign it is a private IP. So a private IP is just an IP address that is reachable within your company, that is reachable within your network. Assign a private IP. So that even after assigning the private IP, if you try to log on to this server with this private IP, it will not go through because, again, the word private is just private to this network. Now, if you now want to log in to this server from your house, right, you need something that we'll call a VPN. So a VPN is just like a tunnel that is only accessible. It's actually on the internet, right? The tunnel is actually on the internet, but this tunnel is like a private house or like a private channel to your network. So what that means is that before you can now call this private IP address, right, you need to log on to this tunnel. Log on to this tunnel. Once you have now logged on to this tunnel, what that gives you now is that you are sitting at your home or in your house, but it now appears like you are in the office. Then you can now call this private IP. You'll be working as if you are working. And that was what brought about work from home. All of the guys that are working from home are connecting via this guy. Now, if you don't have a tunnel, right, bad practice is from your house, you now have a public IP that is now assigned to this server. Public IP is saying that I want to be able to connect to this server from the internet. Remember, there's no tunnel. On your laptop, you type this public IP address and the port, just like I did, right? And then I'm now able to connect to this server because I have a public IP. But best practice is saying that don't ever try this. This is wrong. And because there are bad guys here that are, once they get your public IP, they're always running a tool to see the ports that are opened. Once they now discover that, hey, port 22 is open on this server, they will now exploit it and then start doing what we call DDoS. They will start doing distributed denial of service on your server. And before you know, it gets hacked and that will not be good. So tomorrow, we'll be talking about networking, best practices when it comes to networking. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does to an extent. I mean, I get the point of VPN and trying to get into the private IP, but my particular challenge was that I created this Linux VM from Azure.
Good.
I've posted it for a DNS forwarder to the on-premise server in an environment. Okay. So I tried using Porty to get into the server using that private IP address, but it won't work, even though I'm on the organization's VDI. Yep. And did you expose port 22 on your access list? On the server? Yep. No, I did not. Yes, now that's where the issue is coming from. So we don't want to talk about cloud now because this is on Azure. Once you just go to
that part, I think it's just better if you can just, okay, just show him like a little description of
so can you see this? So now on your Linux machine, right? Yeah. That's on Azure. Once you just click on networking here, you now have to kind of like add an inbound rule. So you just click on add an inbound rule here. Right. So once you add it, maybe I would have to see you after the class, because the moment I don't apply a public IP address, this particular thing doesn't show up on my Linux VM. Yeah, we can actually see after the class so that we can just look at it so that I don't keep guys waiting. Okay, no problem. Yep. All right, I think that brings us to the end of the class. So does anybody have any other question? So I'll call it a day. Any question whatsoever? Can ask me any question now. We have Nuruddin, we have Sheung, and I'm sure we have other experts as well that can assist. So please, if you have any question, you can ask in the next 1 minute. Yeah, Chukwemeka, it is not even advisable to expose your server to the internet. Yes, it's not best practice. Questions? We have questions, we can. Hope you guys enjoyed the class. Okay. I just try to keep it simple as possible. Let us hear responses. Guys, did you enjoy the class?
Are you there?
Okay, yeah. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much for the time and also for the very interactive session. And for your DG, I believe that we also reach out to you regarding his regarding his network, what's called a connection issue. Basically, I feel like if it's actually accessing it from a private VM or probably a private network, maybe that permission is not allowed from that source. You get that port 22, depending. But I believe that you help him with that. Meanwhile, I have an announcement for everyone.
Hello, please, Dapo. I don't know if you are reading the history of the command, whether you are written in the file or something for us.
Okay. Yeah. Let me just write an output file. I'll send it to you. Please don't go ahead.
Okay, I have an announcement. First of all, tomorrow we'll be having a session on networking, and so it's important that you come, because networking is actually one of the core foundations when it comes to let me say cloud, and at the same time also being a DevOps engineer, because sometimes you may be facing similar issues like Ayodeji is facing, and you want to allow connection between different environments or different instances, maybe between a database server and an application server. These are similar challenges that you face. So your ability and your ability to have a good understanding of networking will push you, and also to able to troubleshoot, when you're having network issues. So I would advise that you try to be available. Then number two is that I also noticed that some people still join here with their iPhone without their team name. Please try to join with your team name, because it's very easy for us to actually identify you to a particular team. And at the same time, we can get to know, new people that have joined, our session, and also for attendance keeping. Also, it's very, very easy for us. Then the last thing which I also want to talk about is, okay, before then, I think on Sunday we are having our presentation on PowerShell. Is that correct, Apo? Sunday, right?
No. Yes, Sunday.
Okay. Sunday we are having a presentation for them. For PowerPoint. PowerShell. And finally, we are going to share a link with you. And basically, while we are teaching you DevOps, we also want you to also start looking into ways of actually getting certification or online trainings to at the same time support yourself and build on your skill. So I believe that maybe Oluwaseun will help share a link to give that to Linux Foundation certification. When you can redeem this code actually gives you opportunity to trainings. Some of this certification you may not be qualified to do it right now, but I tell you, this voucher is valid for 1 year. So you can actually redeem the voucher now, probably after 6-7 months, wherever you find yourself, and you know that, okay, you are competent to do some of these exams, even Linux certification exams, even Linux practitioners, simple exams. You can try to take those certifications, and it will also help you to also build on your profile. So I just want to chip that in, and I believe Oluwaseun will also try to help share the redemption code for this certification and e-training portal. It is actually hosted by Linux Foundation. Linux Foundation is one of the highly recognized open source, and also has very good partnership with CNCF when it comes to the DevOps field. So these are the informations I have for you tonight. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Nuruddin. So once you share the link, please try as much as possible to register online, to register for these courses. These are those certifications that even if you want to pay with your money, you can pay close like 180K. But these certifications are now
one certification is around $575.
$575, and then
yes,
if you multiply
for free.
And you're getting it for free. So if you multiply that 575 times the current dollar rates, I'm sure it's over 200K. But quickly register
now. So quickly, as much as possible, do it fast. It's on Discord page now. I'll share it on Discord page.
Okay, thanks, Sean. So please quickly register with that redemption code so that you can book your exam. You can book Linux certification exams, book Kubernetes and all. So even if you are not ready, just book down and schedule it to a later date, maybe December or January.
The way let me just talk a little about the exams.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
They are majorly performance based, and that's one reason why Linux Foundation exams are stand out. They are performance based. You configure you do a lot of configurations, you solve questions real time. They give you a set of questions, you have to do some configuration, do some commands. So it's not as if multiple choice. Majority of them are multiple performance based. Then we have those ones that are pre-professional, like the LFCA. LFCA is pre-professional. They have KCNA, that one also is pre-professional. Those ones are multiple choice. So you can quickly do those ones. Though with what we've covered so far in the mentoring session, you can answer it. You can answer it. They're not things that are difficult. We've done a lot of commands on Linux, some commands on Windows. We've explained some things about the cloud technology. So with that, you should be able to do something around LFCA. It's multiple choice. I think maybe 50 questions in 90 minutes. You can, and if you fail it, you have a retry. They give you one attempt to retry it again. But there are questions you can solve. Because I was part of those that took part in their beta exams, and I know they are not. It's very technical, but there are things you can play with because we've covered a lot of things there. So you can really register for them, like Nuridi mentioned. You have 1 year. Once you register for the exams and wait till when you feel you are you've mastered enough to be able to attend them. So you can quickly do, at least between now and December, you guys can register and take those ones that are multiple choice based. Then you can keep the performance based ones till next year when you would have increased your competence and your
I
knowledge.
think you need to explain what performance-based means. So performance-based means that you will interact with the CLI, you will code like you write.
Otherwise, I mentioned it. I said for the performance based, they will give you a terminal to work with. As if a server, you'll be given a server, a web server to work with. So you connect, they will give you some questions. And it's like the one that did now, for instance, they might tell you a particular user is always logging in using SSH and is getting an error and want you to give that error message out. I will share some of the questions so you just see the way their questions are like. So you solve to answer the question. There's no A, B, C, or D. You solve it very well. Their expectations, if you're able to answer it the way it should be answered. I think when you submit your exam, it takes 24 hours for them to. They have a system that will mark it, that will look through your commands, all the commands you've entered. Did you answer the question they want you to answer it? If you have answered it, then you pass. Pass mark is 6%. 66% is the pass mark. So it's something you guys can try.
All right. Thanks, Sean. Please kindly register tonight, though. This is like an open bonanza, and that is what DAS is all about. Nigerians helping other Nigerians. All right. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow. Networking, very, very important. We have like another of our faculty leader coming in to teach you the basics of networking. So see you guys tomorrow. I think the time is it 2 or 3? You can always check the flyer. All right. Thank you. Bye. Good night.